So, Creeper have a new album out. Southampton-based horror punk band Creeper made waves with their debut album Eternity in Your Arms, an album that although I was head over heels in love with at the time, I've grown out of in the last couple of years. I was incredibly hesitant going into this new album after not really enjoying the new direction taken on the album's singles. However, when the album finally came out, I listened to it and was incredibly pleasantly surprised. Although the band haven't completely shed that theatrical emo pop punk sound of their previous music, with Sex Death and the Infinite Void, the band take influence from a wide variety of music including glam rock, Britpop and gothic rock. Rather than sounding like Alkaline Trio and AFI had a British baby, this time the band are all over the place, never sticking to one sound or genre. You have the catchy Danger Days era pop punk sound of Be My End, the reverb heavy guitars and pianos of Roy Orbison on Cyanide, and the somber romantic sound of Nick Cave on songs like Paradise or Poisoned Heart. It's an album where nearly every song sounds completely different, but in a way where it still sounds connected. The album follows the interconnecting stories of 7 families in a small town in California, each of whom represent one of the 7 deadly sins, and much of the songs describe the characters' personalities, the story that they're taking, and I think the songwriting really complements the story well. Songs like Born Cold show this narrative off perfectly by describing the inner darkness of a selfish and narcissistic character called Ro, inspired by the film White Duke. This song is a song that doesn't sound too disconnected from the band's normal sound, but with a much more Black Parade era of My Chemical Romance tone to it. Vocalist Will Gould's blending of crooning and Meatloaf-esque operatic singing works really well. Hannah Greenwood's piano lines are actually audible here, unlike they were on pretty much anything else the band have done before, and blend with the track really well. The progression throughout the track is really great, with the crescendo in the bridge being one of my favourite moments on the track. The track really feels like the perfect transition between the two albums, having much of that theatrical emo sound while also heading into a much more polished and clean direction. Lyrically, the album is a lot more mature than their debut, heading away from tales of youth and young romance and instead encapsulating the first steps of adulthood perfectly. Gone are the Peter Pan inspired lyrics about never growing up, and instead we are given these poetic, violent tracks filled with apocalyptic and religious imagery. Cyanide shows the band going full glam rock with the bright and bouncy piano lines blending with acoustic guitars, heavily bended guitar chords, and Gould's confident and at sometimes very camp crooning. Paradise is a great slow rock and roll song with this real dark gothic sound, which leads it to being one of the most atmospheric tracks on the record. The track really displays the Americana tone that the album was trying to go for perfectly. It feels like you're driving down the desert roads late at night without knowing where you're heading. Gould really gets to show off his full vocal range on this track, with the baritone vocals in the verses mixed with the higher vocal lines in the refrain. The production on this track is fantastic. I love the blending of loads of clean guitar lines, synthesizers, piano, and the later saxophone solo, which adds this really great classic rock sound to the track. Poisoned Heart follows a very similar sound, but with a much more alternative country inspiration, especially in Gould's whispered baritone vocals. I love the strings throughout the track, which glide across the track almost like it's the wind blowing past as you drive along this empty road. This song shows the band's knack for writing a really great pop song, especially with its huge chorus, which is one of the catchiest on the album. Thorns of Love calls back to the sort of classic rock and roll that Bowie was recreating on Aladdin Sane. There is a bouncy doo-wop sound which contrasts the darker lyrics which reference the deaths of John Lennon and Ian Curtis in 1980. I love the bells that play throughout the chorus mixed with this giant hook. The spoken word bridge is probably a little bit too cheesy for me, but I definitely understand what they were going for. I also love the simple yet really cool guitar solo towards the end, which is clearly inspired by the sort of sounds that Brian made from Queen or even Avenged Sevenfold use. 4 years ago is this cool little ambient country rock duet between Gould and Greenwood, which is the first time they've ever sung together like this. It's a beautiful track about the disintegration of a relationship and looking back at where you were when it first started. There are plenty of moments on the album where the band do give anyone missing that pop punk sound something to bite into. 2, Be My End, Annabelle, and Napalm Girls are all examples of this. Although they're catchy and fun tracks, I do think it would have been a lot better if they went in the similar direction that they took on the rest of the album, and because of that, at times these songs do feel a little bit out of place. The closing track, All My Friends, is in my opinion probably the weakest point on the album. The track was written by Gould about when guitarist Ian Miles was admitted to hospital. Although I think the track is full of a lot of heart and has some really nice melodies, I think the chorus is a little bit too repetitive and it really brings the track down for me. I like the verses and the dark emotional lyrics. Also, I like the bareness of the instrumentation just comprising of piano and strings, but apart from that, this isn't a song that really clicks for me at all. Overall, I am really digging this new Creeper record. I've always had a huge attachment to the band due to how long I've been following them and the fact that they're basically local to me. So to see them mature and make a scene album that is so experimental and loose with its sound and genres with great lyrics and some incredibly catchy hooks is great to see. There are definitely moments I'm not too fond of, but for the most part I think this album encapsulates the talent of the band in the most theatrical, exciting and bombastic way possible, which is kind of exactly what you would expect from this band. So I'm going to give Sex, Death and the Infinite Void by Creeper 4 stars out of 5.